Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Shirley Mwajuma, and thank you for joining us tonight for this masterclass Python. First, for those who are just getting to know us, the event is brought to you by CodeVertex IT Solutions. We are a passionate community of technologies driven by a simple but powerful mission, that is to learn, to innovate, and disrupt the status quo. We believe that with the right skills, you can build the future, and that's exactly what our program in software engineering, data science, and professional certifications are designed to do. So we are not just a training institute, we are your launch pad, that is to your designated path that you want to do. So, and that brings us perfectly to why we are all here today. That is our free Python masterclass. The theme today is to bridge the gap, that is the gap between learning the basic syntax of a language and actually using it to solve real world problems. So many of you started your journey with Hello World. Like when you're learning a new programming language, the first thing you're going to, the first output you're going to, maybe you are told to print Hello World. So you can print. That is the first program I usually see when you're doing coding, like in any language. So that is the first thing most people print out. So with Python, there's a syntax for printing or outputting Hello World. So today we are here to talk about what comes next. That is after you learn how to print or you learn the syntax of Python. So how do you go from the first line of code to building applications that power businesses and impact communities? So that is the gap we are bridging together today. Now, to guide us through on this journey, you don't just need a teacher, you need a practitioner. That is someone who is experienced and someone who does this programming or using Python daily. So you need someone who is already on the front lines, building, creating, and solving complex problems with code. So for that, we are incredibly fortunate to have such a person with us today. So everyone, please join me in welcoming our guest speaker today, that is Titus Owuor. So Titus is a full-stack software engineer with over 5 years of experience in designing scalable softwares and integrating complex APIs. He's a proud alumnus of Maseno University and a very embodiment of talent and potential we have right here in Kenya. He isn't just theorizing about real-world code, he's writing it every day. So he recently collaborated on building a comprehensive web bridge management software for the road authority here in Kenya. That is a critical piece of natural infrastructure. And right now he's developing a data alignment middleware for MOH to help with annual national health data alignment. That is code that has a direct tangible impact on people's lives. So with his deep expertise in Python, C#, .NET, and data science, he's the perfect guy to show us how the pieces fit together in a professional environment. So without further ado, let's give a massive warm CodeVertex welcome to Titus Owuor, who will take us from basics to brilliance in Python. So Titus Owuor, you're welcome, and the stage is yours.
Wow, what an introduction. I didn't think I know myself the way I've been described today. Okay, but that's me. So my name is Titus, and I'll be taking you through today's session, and I hope it's going to be, at least it's going to change something, or at least it's going to make you take that turn or that step that you've been, you've been hesitating to take. So maybe with this, you'll get the clarity to make the next step. So we'll jump right into it. I don't know who is presenting, but I'd like to present my screen so that we just jump right into it. I don't know if Bill is sharing. If sharing, just drop so that I can share my screen. All right. So my screen is coming up in a few. Once you see it, just let me know. If you're able to see my screen, just let me know. Amazing, amazing. Okay. So let me give you a brief of my journey, because sometimes you might think that tech is so complicated, but it is not. So my journey started in Maseno University. So I started coding actually when I was in when I was in first year. I started coding, and my first language was Java. So I started coding in Java. I learned a few things, and then from Java, I decided that what about web? How do people make websites? I was just curious. But every time I visit the university website, I visit different websites, but I was curious, how do these people make the websites? So I decided to dive into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, JavaScript is the most used scripting language in the world. Currently, there's another one that is upcoming, and that is really gaining track. That is TypeScript. But originally, JavaScript has more history. So I dived into HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. From there, I decided to build, test the waters, and I built my first simple website that was an agricultural website just to market food materials and farm inputs and all that. So that was that first year when I built my first simple website. And then from there, I started to explore other languages, but I still went on learning Java. So in second year, I decided to start to explore Python. Python was getting some popularity, and I decided, why not? So I decided to start exploring Python. I started learning Python. I got to a point where I started learning the different frameworks of Python, that is Django, Flask, and Fast API. I don't know if there's any that somebody knows here, the different frameworks of Python, but we'll get to that. So by the time I was in third year, I was very comfortable with Python, and I had explored other languages like C#, and now I was also exploring full stack. I was going the full stack way, so I decided to explore front-end languages. My first front-end language was Vue.js. And then from Vue.js, I decided to also explore React, which most of you know. And from there, when I got to third year, I think when I was going to, by the time I got to attachment, that is now where the real thing started. From third year, I decided to, I did my attachment with Masterclass, the company that I'm currently working with. At that particular point, they were doing a software for Kenya, actually upgrading the infrastructure for WebBridges and the WebBridge software. So that is how I came in. I became part of the team that developed the software that Kenya is currently using to manage their WebBridges. We are the team that also automated the different Kenya infrastructures that you see on the road. I'm pretty sure you passed through a WebBridge before, or maybe somewhere on the road you see some cameras mounted somewhere. We normally call it a virtual station or HSWIM. I believe you've seen something like that. So I became part of that team, and we dived into automations, building softwares and all that. And I realized that Python was able to get in between everywhere. When you're talking about automation, you're talking Python can be able to do automation. You're talking about web development, Python is able to do web development. You're talking about analytics. You're talking about AI, and Python is able to do all that. And today we're just here to talk about Python and why are we saying Python, Python everywhere, and why is it becoming so popular? So what we're going to talk about today, I think enough of my personal story and journey. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to look at why Python. Why do you think Python is getting a lot of popularity? And as much as you want to learn Python, you also need to understand its capabilities compared to other languages. So we look at real-world applications that Python can do. like real world use cases or what you can build with Python. And then we will compare Python with other languages, because there are other computer languages or computer programming languages that exist. How does Python compare? And how do you choose a language? How do you decide that now I'm going to build this with Python, or I'm going to build this with Java, or I'm going to build this with Node.js? And then we'll look at the learning roadmap from beginner, expert, or intermediate. What do you need to learn if you are interested in learning Python or beginning a career in Python? So, and then from there, we'll look at career opportunities within the Python stack. And of course, lastly, we will look at the future of Python. If you're going to learn a language, or if you're going to invest in a language or your time in a language, then it needs to be a language that even in the next century, people will be adopting it. What is the adoption level, or what are the emerging trends, and is Python fitting within those emerging trends? Especially right now that AI is a bigger emerging trend in technology. Is Python fitting within that? And then you can make your decision whether it's worth investing your time in. So before we move to the next slide, I just wanted to really quick, you can give me a thumbs up or just unmute really quick, or just use the messages section. We are talking about Python as a programming language. One thing I don't want to assume is that everybody here is intermediate or understands what programming languages mean. Because I remember the first time I heard about computer languages, I was like, damn, what are you guys talking about? Because to me, I know English and Kiswahili and maybe a bit of French. So if you're talking about computer language, I was a bit, for a second, I didn't understand what these people were talking about. So if you've heard about computer languages before we talk about it, give me a thumbs up. Computers pia ziko na languages. Elizabeth has heard about computer languages. Anybody else? Just give me a thumbs up really quick. And Elizabeth, you'll tell me which programming language you know. Just type it in the messages section. So I have Willis, Brian, who else? There's Effie. Okay, so there's okay, so take the first 10 seconds, just type the programming language that you know in the messages section really quick before we proceed. Na musiseme Python. C, Brian, okay. Hey, basic C, C++, it's Pascal. Let's keep them coming. We have Java. We have JavaScript. Okay, Golang. Basically, if you're saying Golang, let's just say Go, because Go is built on Golang. Kitunda. Hadi mnasalimiana hapa na niko hapa mbele yangu. Sawa tu. Hi Kitunda. So there's Byron. Okay. Any other language? Apart from JavaScript, Go, Pascal, C, C++, any other language that Ruby? Why are you guys forgetting Ruby? The name sounds cute, by the way, Ruby. Elixir. Hey, we are maubaya. Did you know about Elixir? So when you talk about Elixir, let's add, there's a language called Erlang. That's what Elixir is built on, and that is the language behind WhatsApp. So you use WhatsApp a lot. So that's the language that was used to build WhatsApp. So if you basically want to get to know or familiarize yourself with how WhatsApp works, learn Elixir. Any other language? So I'll give you my current favorite, that is C#. So there's Go. We also have Go. Any other language? So I want the major languages that we know, enterprise languages. So when you talk about enterprise languages, we have C#, we have Elixir, we have Ruby, we have Go. Which one else? You have Java. Okay, something funny, or at least a bit interesting. You know Java, you know JavaScript, you know Elixir, Ruby, or Pascal or whatever. But it's good to know the community behind each language, right? Who built Java and who built C#? These are the key languages that are competing in enterprise applications. Who built Python? Think about that as we proceed. So if you have the answer, give me the answer in the messages section. And I'll say Google. Okay, so let's move to the next thing that we want to look at. So why Python? So before we get to this, why do you think Python is getting a lot of popularity? So Java was built by Java 1, I think. Have you ever heard of Sun Microsystems? Look into that. C# is obvious. It's built by Microsoft. Okay, so let's move into the next thing. Now, why do you think Python is becoming popular? Everybody is talking about Python these days. You walk into a company or you meet an old person and they're like, is it Python? You're wondering, where did they hear Python? Why is it gaining popularity? And why is it that most companies these days, people know Python, people want to learn Python, people are going Python? Why? Let me hear what you have before you get to hear what I have. Why do you think Python is gaining popularity?
I think Python is open source.
Python is an open source language. That's most languages are open source, obviously. I think the key selling point is most libraries in Python are open source. There are some libraries that you need to pay for in other languages. In Python, almost everything is open source. That's one. That's amazing, Bill. Easy for data analysis. That is Elizabeth. Most, you realize that because we put a lot of data outside there through social media, through different platforms. So there is need to analyze the sentiment. What are people talking about? What are the key selling points? How do I sell a new product? How do I analyze that I know that this product will sell in this particular niche or market? So people need the knowledge of data analysis or data science, and you realize that Python has some of the best open source libraries for data analysis. Community, very important. Python has the largest community if you compare with its competitors. It has quite a vast community support. So that means you have a problem, it's easier to get help. Learning curve, very important, and we'll get into that. If you compare the learning curve of C or Java and Python, and we will compare them very soon, you realize that Python is almost like speaking English. If you can speak good English, you can speak Python. Cross-platform. Yeah, that is okay. But these days with DevOps, almost all languages can be deployed in any platform. So that problem has been taken care of. But of course, Python applications are cross-platform. You can build desktop applications, you can build web applications, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I promised to talk about computer languages. So just like the way you communicate with your colleagues at work, computers also need languages, or consider this an alphabetical order or alphabetical letters that helps you create words, and the words help to create sentences, and the sentences helps you create a story, right? So for computers, for you to build an application that tells a story, just like the way we are currently using Google Meet, and we're able to do or achieve whatever we are doing right now. Somebody built this. But for them to build this, for the computer to be able to understand that this is what I should do at this particular time, they used a language to give the computer instructions to do whatever Google Meet is able to do. So that is why computer languages were invented. So when computer languages were invented, there were low-level languages. And right now we have, you probably heard about low-level and high-level languages. You probably heard about interpreted and compiled languages. So could somebody give me a difference between compiled and interpreted languages? I think that is what makes more sense in the current scope that we're talking about today. A quick difference between interpreted and compiled languages. Now, if you're talking about interpreted, we have interpreted high level, and then we have compiled high level, and we have compiled native. So let's start with interpreted and compiled languages, and maybe give an example. If you talked about C#, or somebody talked about Brian Kitunda, you talked about C. Is C a compiled or interpreted language? What is the difference? What is compiled and what is interpreted? What does that mean? Brian? Okay. There is Pascal. I thought Pascal was somebody's name, so it's a language. Okay. William, Pascal, is it a compiled or interpreted language? Bana, mnaniangusha. Kitunda, Java, is it compiled or interpreted? Effie, JavaScript. Bill, Golang, is it compiled or interpreted?
I think Golang is compiled.
Yeah, Golang is compiled and native.
Yes.
I can say it is compiled, but in between low level and compiled. So that's why we say compiled native. So yeah, that is compiled. But my interest is, why do we classify languages as compiled and interpreted? And why is it important? Because that is the first thing you need to know before you choose a programming language. If you understand what compiles means and how it affects your CPU or the performance, then you will definitely choose the right language for the right task. So that is why it is important to also know. So compiled, what does it mean? Interpreted, what does it mean? Somebody? Yes, Bill?
Yes, so like I think for the compiled, the whole language is translated to like machine language as a whole. Something like that. Though I'm not sure.
What about interpreted?
It goes line by line, making it more portable but slow.
Yeah, so you've given us the general picture. So if you're talking about compiled, that is a language that is almost identical to computer language. When you're talking about computer language, computer understands zeros and ones, or binary, what we call binary. If I type, or if I just type A on my keyboard, if I had a computer binary interpreter, what will display, or the code for A would be something like 01100. That is bytecode. That is not, but what you see on your screen, even when you type on Word, is you'll see A or whatever. So if you're dealing with a language like Java, Go, C#, those are compiled languages. And that means they are closer to computer language. So they don't take much time to interpret during running. So you can easily, let me say they are ahead of time. But if you're talking about interpreted languages, these are languages which are easy to learn, and they are more like English or human-like, readable. So what happens with these languages is when you're running a program in such a language, it means it is compiled at runtime. All that gibberish you've written is going to be compiled into computer language and changed into binaries for the computer to understand. That gives more overhead of during runtime, because you now need to convert that language into computer level language and then compile at runtime. So that gives more overhead when you're running. So that means interpreted languages might be slow during runtime, but if you look at it from portability, you're able to learn it fast. You're able to use it anywhere, anytime. So, but when it comes to now performance, that is where it's going to give you a bit of a overhead compared to compiled languages. Okay, so now that you know what a language or computer language is, and you've named several, now let's dive into why we picked Python for today. And I'm going to say Python is an interpreted high-level language. So that means if you are going to do a microservice or an application that needs concurrency and high performance, then you need a compiled language that is good in concurrency, a language like Golang or Go or C#. But if you need good performance, you need a language that is portable, short learning curve. You need a language that you can do multiple things at the same time. You want to implement data analysis. You want to implement AI. You want to implement web interfaces. You want to do dashboards. Then you're probably going to choose a language like Python. Okay, so let me share my screen again. So we've all been asking ourselves, why is Python gaining more popularity today? And these are just but the 6 reasons. There are so many reasons why Python is gaining popularity, but I've just summed this into the 6 major reasons. So first thing, somebody talked about designed for readability. So that means it is the learning curve is short. And when you're learning Python, you realize that you're almost like speaking English. So it's easy for somebody to just walk in and look at my screen and understand the code that I'm writing. And then we talk about vibrant community. Somebody talked about community in the chat section, that Python has a large community of people who support it. So that means if you're doing something, then probably somebody has done it before. And if you're stuck, if you Google, you're probably going to get help. So it's good to choose a language that so many people are supporting, so that even your system is going to be, when you run into a problem, it's easier to get help and fix your problem. And then versatility. I've just talked about Python being able to handle automations, and I've seen that on the ground, where you can use Python in IoT. That is basically automating hardware and writing hardware code. And then you can use Python for web. You can use Python for AI or machine learning. And you can use Python for data analysis, all in one language if you get that package. And you can do desktop applications with Python. So that is a language that is worth learning, or spending your time learning. And then barrier to entry, that is because of the, it is easier to learn. So it is not, if I wanted to learn Java, it will really take me time to just understand how variables and data types works in Java, but it will just take me like 10 minutes to understand how variables and data types work in Python. Business value. So most business, if you want to build an application faster or different prototypes, you want to build a prototype of a system faster, it's easier to build it using a Python framework. And of course, most businesses use Python for different reasons. And if you're using Spotify, then you should know that that is built on Python. And why did they choose Python to build it? If you've used Spotify and you know how it performs, then you should know. And then it has a growing demand. Now that AI is taking over and everything is like AI, and Python is basically the language behind machine learning, then that means it's a language that is worth spending your money learning or spending your time learning. So like I said, think of Python or think of programming as simple alphabetical letters, like maybe A to Z. Now, these letters combined together in a particular arrangement will form a word. And once you have a word, you can create sentences. And once you have sentences, you can tell a story, right? So that and that is what we are going to do today. We're just going to tell a story using Python. So if you're a beginner and you want to get your hands dirty with code, we're going to dive a bit into Python and introduce how it works. But this will be just the superficial introduction of Python. So if you want to learn Python and dive deeper into the different careers in Python, like maybe data analysis or DevOps or software engineering, then you're welcome to take one of our courses. We offer quite a number of courses that are Python focused, and we'll look into that later on. So Python in real world use cases, the first thing you want to talk about is web development. And I think I've mentioned that Spotify is an app that you're using, and it's built on Python. Most of its backend services and all that is built on Python. So web development, you can either go with a framework of Python that is versatile and is also well developed, that is Django, which is well developed to take on bigger applications. If you want light applications or simple websites, you can do Flask. If you want applications that need asynchronous communication and things to do with data analysis and AI, you can learn a framework of Python called FastAPI. So let's dive into what Python can do. So we've talked about data analysis and visualization. So if you are here and you are at intermediate level or you are a beginner, probably if you're a beginner, start with learning variables, data type functions in Python. If you're at intermediate level, you can start maybe learn maybe a library of Python like now, if pandas or something like that, or maybe do Django, the web framework of Python. So in data analysis, if you're interested in data analysis, these are the core languages or the core libraries of Python that you need to learn. Pandas, which has an option built on Ruby called Polars. So Polars is the new library of Python for data analysis, which performs better than Pandas if you're dealing with a large data set. But if you're just dealing with a small data set, just use Pandas. If you're dealing with a bigger data set, use Polars. And then we have NumPy, and then we have Matplotlib. Machine learning and AI, the core languages that Python uses, which are well developed. I think these ones, if you've interacted with Python or been doing machine learning for some time, you know of TensorFlow and PyTorch. And then if you're into automations, then there's something called MicroPython, which can be used to program hardwares. You can use it to program PLCs. You can use it to program IoT devices like, you call them what? Arduinos. Yeah. So that is Python and real-world application. So what are the other possibilities that Python offers? So we have DevOps. So Python, because it is a high-level language, and it can also be used as a scripting language, and that is where it comes in building DevOps infrastructures, just automating pipelines and making sure things are linked in the pipelines. When it comes to prototyping, it is easier to do system prototyping using Python, and also in education. When you want to teach people programming, it is easier to use Python because it's more like speaking a language that somebody already understands, English. Scientific computing and research, because of the short curve of learning it, and being that it is versatile and it can integrate with so many things at the same time, it's being now used in scientific computing. And that is why with Python, once you are a Python developer, you'll be like just wow most of the time, because you want this, you want data analysis, you can do it. You want web, you can do it. You want AI, you can do it. You want automations, hardware, you can do it. Okay, let's look at Python versus other languages. And this is where hapa ndo vita huwa inaanza. You're like, oh, Python is the best. Or somebody comes and says, no, Python cannot do this and that. But today I'm here to tell you that it's not about which language is the best or which language is better than the other. But first of all, let me hear how you reason out. So how do you compare, or let me just ask, have you ever compared Python to other languages? Or if you've developed anything in Python before, why did you choose Python and not the other language? How does Python compare in terms of performance? In terms of, let me just say performance and simplicity of code with other languages. Musha nipe tu story yake, because maybe I'll tell you, the first time I was learning Java and I was learning Hello World, because that is the program, somebody said that the first program that most of us learn when you're learning a new language of code is an Hello World program. So my first Hello World was in Java. I'm telling you. It was crazy. So if you compare Python and Java, nataka tu kuanza vita hapa sahii tuone kuna mtu wa Java hapa diehard. Ukiguza Java umemguza. So how does it compare, or what was your experience? Python and Java, mostly compared languages. Okay. Okay, so, let's proceed. I think if you've compared Python and Java before, or Python in any other language, then you'll tell me that I think you'll be able to support me when I say the syntax, or just the simplicity of Python is high compared to other languages. I can write a single line of code that is able to rename, format, and do a lot of things at the same time. But 10 lines of code in Java is just going to achieve maybe a single task that your one line of code of Python is doing. So in terms of simplicity, I want to say that Python is very simple, has very simple syntax, and that is why it is easier to learn. So how does Python compare to other languages? Let's dive into that. So we have Python learning curve, obviously low, because it is human readable. Primary use cases, web, AI, data science, and automation. And when you talk about automation, that is where IoT and hardware comes in. Performance. So for most of the applications, like medium applications, let's talk about e-commerce systems. Let's talk about POS systems. Let's talk about the light systems that we use on a day-to-day basis. It's a good choice to go with Python, because it will be easier to prototype such a system within a short period of time compared to other languages. And the performance is good. It's not that bad. And the reason why we're saying it is good and not excellent is because Python is an interpreted language. So there's an overhead during runtime. So the type of language, Python is an interpreted high-level language. And then let's look at the competitor. The next competitor is PHP. I'd say if you want to build websites mostly, or server-side scripting, then learn PHP. It's good for server-side scripting or building WordPress websites. Or if you want to dive into WordPress or build websites using WordPress, it's good to learn PHP. So learning curve of PHP is also relatively low. The major use case is server-side web development. And performance is moderate. It's not that bad. It's also not that high. It's also an interpreted high-level language. Then we have C#. Currently, my favorite compiled language. It is geared towards enterprise applications and game development. If you've watched a cartoon before, or maybe a cartoon movie before, or animation, be sure that when you learn C#, you can use a platform called Unity and build a complete animation movie using Unity, and that is based on C#. And the performance is excellent. And it is compiled, it is a compiled high-level language. Then we go to Golang, what most people call it Go, but it is built on Golang. Learning curve, its syntax is not that complicated. So I'd say learning curve is moderate to low, depending on, are you a total beginner or are you an intermediate? If you are in intermediate level and you interacted with other languages before, it would be very easy to learn Go, because it's more like Python or maybe C#. And it is made for microservices. So if you are that person who wants to, because currently the microservices architecture is the new way of doing things. Let me ask you a simple question. How many have built systems here before? You've built a simple system here before. Just give me a thumbs up really quick. And then I'm going to ask you a simple question. Or how many systems have you built before here? Just really quick. Maybe somebody needs that system here. And you're just keeping quiet about it. Anybody who has built a system here before? Any, when I talk about system, anyway, any application, web application, mobile app, whatever, before? So Brian, what did you build?
Hi, Titus.
Yes, hi.
Yeah, I've been in a bit of noise. What systems I've built? I've built several, but let's go with a notification service. Inatuma to SMS now. Yeah.
Now, if you build more than one system, you realize that in any system that you're going to build, you're going to need authentication or user management. Let me just say authentication. The next thing you're going to need is notifications. Your users need to be notified at some level, whether it is push or SMS or email, right? Another thing that your system needs, your system may need integration to ERP, or let me say a point of sale system. But the most common ones are the ones that I've mentioned: authentication, notification, or maybe integration to finance systems or accounting systems like finance management system. Now, what I want to talk about, if you build such systems and you know, or you've learned, you have some knowledge in Go, then I would say there's a new role that we normally use. It's called dry. Do you know what dry means? So dry simply means, wachana na hiyo unafikiria. Dry simply means do not. Simumalize shwali. Niko peke yangu hapa. Dry means it simply means do not repeat yourself. Do not repeat yourself. Build it once, use it everywhere else. So when you want to, if you want to build microsystems that you can use across your applications, build your own single sign-on platform, SSO. Build an authentication microservice in Go, or build a notification microservice in Go, so that in any other application that you're going to build, you're not going to build a structure, or you're not going to build logic for notification again. You're repeating yourself. So imagine you have 10 applications that you've been developing, and then every now and then you're building authentication. Every now and then you're building notification logic. It's repeating yourself, and you're wasting a lot of your energy in something that you already do every now and then every system. So that's why I also say you can't say that this language is better than the other. So you see that Go is now going to save us to build microservices that are cloud-based, to avoid repeating ourselves. It is compiled and it is native, meaning it is compiled and low level. So that gives us compiled native. And it has excellent concurrency. That is why it is used for microservices. And then now we have Java. This is the guy which has been there long enough, and it has been used by several enterprises, and it is still the GOAT, by the way. You can use Java to build Android applications. You can use Java to build web applications. And you can use Java to also do big data analysis. It's also compiled and high level. That means the code is readable and you can tell what somebody is doing. And then we have Node.js. So these languages that I'm comparing Python to, these are the most common languages available outside there that are being used or with a high track record worldwide. So we have Node.js. Now, this is the mother of all, call it what? Real-time applications. You want to build a chat application like maybe TikTok, or you want to build a chat application like Facebook or a messaging system. When it comes to socket communication, Node.js shines. So when you want to build web front-end and back-end and real-time application, things like that, it's better to use Node.js. So event-driven, that's why I talked about WebSockets, and it is interpreted high-level language. Now let's go to the community ecosystem comparison. If you compare the community support for Python, it is higher compared to the other languages. So we have Python at 95%, PHP at 75%, but it is mostly used in WordPress or web applications or server-side applications. And then we have C# at 85%, mostly enterprise applications. And then we have Java at 90%. That's why we say Java is a compiled language with the highest track record compared to the other languages. Go has 70%, but it is an upcoming language. It's gaining a lot of popularity because of the microservice architecture that they decided to take, and also being that it can handle high-level concurrency. And then we have Node.js, very popular at 92%. Mostly dealing with JavaScript. It's built on JavaScript and it's mostly used. It belongs to the JavaScript community. So now you know how Python compares to the other languages and the community coverage of Python. So I think it's time we dive into the nitty-gritties of Python. So if you're here to at least get your hands dirty and see your first code in Python, this is the time, because this section was meant for total beginners, but also for intermediates or any level you are at right now. If you're at mastery or specialization, or maybe you are at intermediate, this session probably every now and then you learn a new thing that you didn't know about. But if you are at total beginner, then let's dive into the basics of Python. So what we are going to learn is we are going to tell a story right from the start, from syntax, how things are arranged in Python, to variables and data types, to control flow, to operators, and at least basics of some basic functions. So I'm not going to take, I'm going to take like 10 minutes to take you through that. Remember I said that this is not, it's not like we are doing an official or an in-depth course in Python, but we're giving you an overview so that if you are at the but stage of like, but what if I do this, but what if I do that, but what if I start and I don't get the right, I think after this, you'll take that step into diving into Python if you had buts. So after this, no buts. Tumekubaliana hapo. Pinky swear. Okay, let's dive into it. So I'm going to focus here on beginners, but if you are at intermediate level, there's something called OOP, or object-oriented programming. If you are at intermediate level, I don't know whether there's a guy called Elias. Are you still here? Elias, if you're still here, or if you are any other person who is at intermediate level, you've learned all this. Intermediate means you've learned all this: data types, control flow, functions, and basic data structures in Python. That is dictionaries and tuples and all that. Then you can focus on object-oriented programming in Python. And remember, I said we offer a course. We offer several courses that are touching on Python. So if you need guidance, you can also enroll for some of one of our courses that talks about the advanced topics in Python, like the Code Starter course, but we'll look into that later on. If you are advanced, you want to specialize, then you can go Django. If you want if you want to do web applications. If you want to do asynchronous programming or asynchronous systems, and asynchronous communication systems, majorly you want to do data analytics platform, then you learn Fast API. It supports that. Or you could learn the libraries for data science like NumPy, Pandas, Polars, and all that. So advanced, expert or mastery, now you can start collaborating with other developers and build systems. At CodeVertex, we have different applications that we're working on within the CodeVertex organization. So if you're interested in collaborating in any of our projects, feel free. So what's going on? Brian, what's going on? Brian and Byron.
Yeah, sorry Titus. Nilikuwa nimeona text yake ya kitambo na nimemjibu sai. I'm sorry. Proceed.
Okay. Okay. So here with me today, I have, so for you to start, if you are a complete beginner and you want to learn basics of programming languages or basics of Python, you want to understand how languages work, probably you need tools. And the way I like to say this is, if you wanted to do a Word document, which software do you normally use? Or which software must you have to do a Word document? All these things normally connect. You want to do a Word document. What software do I need installed to do that?
Word.
You need Word, or you need Office installed. But for you to do Python or to write Python code, you need something that understands Python code and can interpret it to your computer, so that when you compile, you're able to see the result of whatever you're doing. So you'll need a code editor, somewhere you can write your code. So a code editor, the most commonly used code editor is VS Code, and that is what I have installed. And you also need Python interpreter installed. Remember, we said Python is an interpreted language, so you probably need an interpreter for Python to interpret the language. So you'll need Python, at least version 3 and above, installed in your computer. So I have, let me just expand my screen kidogo. So I have VS Code installed. So that is going to be my code editor for today. And then I also have Python installed. So we can start writing some basic code in Python. Now in Python, before you write any code, all the Python files are saved with the extension .py. And the reason for this is, if I do a Word document right now, what is the extension that the Word documents are saved with? It's saved, I think the extension is .docs. Reason being, your operating system normally uses or looks for files based on the extension that you save the file with. So if I save my file as .docs and I write Python code in it, it will be interpreted as a Word document. So it will be opened using a Word application. If I write my code, or I create a file called hello.py, that means this is a Python file, and it will probably look for an installed interpreter for Python to run that code. So that is why it is good to know how to save your files, or the extension that you need to save your files with when you're working with Python. So I've created a file here called hello.py. which will be our playground for today. So basically, this is going to take, I think, by the next 10 minutes, just give you an overview. So we are going to start from syntax, and then followed by variables and data types. And then I can follow it by operators. And then after that, we're going to do functions. And if you are at intermediate, you would do OP, but we won't look into OP, these advanced concepts in Python. So our journey ends here. Oh, sorry, I forgot control flow. So when you talk about syntax, you're talking about some, you're talking about a certain way your Python code should be structured and the different keywords that you should use that are preserved for the interpreter or the compiler. When you're talking about Python, let's talk about interpreter because you don't have a compiler. Compiler is in compiled languages. So that is the syntax. And let me put it in simple words. If you're doing a Word document, you can just, there's a way you format your header, your title, your body, and all that, so that things don't look the same, right? So that somebody who is reading it, it's easier for them to read it and quickly make out what you're trying to communicate. So it's the same thing that we are going to apply here. So what is the syntax that the Python code should follow so that we don't run into, the compiler does not have a hard time interpreting your code, what will give you bugs or errors. So that is what we are calling syntax. And probably in Python, you'll talk about keywords, you'll talk about indentation. So once you learn how Python code should be indented or keywords that you should use them, you are ready to move to the next step, which is variables and data types. But let's see, what is the syntax of, let's say, creating a simple application or a simple variable, or let me say a simple function. So I define a function called main, and then that prints hello world. So that is the syntax of, let's say this function prints hello world. But I want you to note something, that this is a keyword. That is why it is highlighted in blue. If you want to define a function or tell your interpreter that whatever you're seeing here is a function, you're going to use the keyword def to define a new function. And the function name is main. Now, the function does not take any inputs from the user or from anywhere. So it is empty brackets. And then what does the code do? It is going to print on your screen this text that you're seeing here. So if you look at this, why didn't I start from here? I started from somewhere inside, but I didn't start from the beginning of the line. And if I bring my code to the beginning of the line, the print line, you see that I get expected indent block. I get some error. So I did not follow the right Python syntax. That is indentation. So I need to move this code inside so that the code belongs to this function. So this code block that the function block that you're seeing here, the code is indented inside so that that code belongs to that particular function. So if I move outside the function, that is now outside. At line 4, I'm outside, and I can maybe say I want to print. This is a simple Python program. Now, I'm not getting any error because I'm outside the function, and the first print belongs to this function, so it should be indented inside that function. And how do you mark the beginning of a function? You use full colon to mark the beginning of a function. Then down the next line, you put the code that belongs to that function indented inside where the name of the function starts. If it is an if statement somewhere, you put it inside the where the condition starts. So that is Python syntax. Do you have a question on this before we move to variables and data types? Now we are getting our hands dirty. So it's probably time to begin and try to learn something. Do you have a question here on Python syntax? Okay. All right, so let's move on. Now, let's move to variables and data types. So I'm going to ask a volunteer here. Probably, let me just choose somebody from here. Or who wants to volunteer to tell us about their favorite meal? And we are going to cook that meal right now. It's not past supper time, so we can cook that meal. Who wants to tell us about their favorite meal? Kama nichague.
Kuku.
Hey, sasa tutapika kuku sahi kweli na ive na watu wakule. Aya, keep your mic on. Keep your mic on, Elizabeth. So, what do you need to prepare kuku?
We need the piece of the chicken,
You need the kuku itself, Cynthia.
the kuku itself,
And what else?
the ingredients, that the onions, the tomatoes,
Onions, tomatoes,
garlics.
let's say cooking oil, right?
Yeah.
One last. Spices. I've talked about that. Okay, let's put spices. All right. So you want to cook a meal. So we want to cook that meal right now. So we talked about the meal that we're preparing. Let's call it. Or let me just call it kuku choma. Sinapenda kuku choma. Everybody does. KFC. So let's say tunapika kuku choma. And we have onions, we have tomatoes, we have cooking oil, we have spices. Now, let me put this into the Python code context so that if you're a beginner here, you're able to understand what we're talking about. So if you talk about a variable, then you're talking about, if you talk about, let me say, cooking oil, probably the cooking oil comes in a container, right, Elizabeth?
Yes, in a container.
Yes. So when you talk
container.
Exactly. Hiyo ya Elianto yenye unajua. So when you talk about variable, we are talking about a container. But we want to give this container a name. That is where data comes in. So the data here is the oil, the cooking oil. So let's say we have a container for holding our oil. So we call that a variable. And then we have the cooking oil itself. The reason why, so we are going to call that container what? We have a container which contains a cooking oil. What are we going to call that container? Bado naongea na Elizabeth.
Can we call it Erianto? We call it Erianto.
Can we just give it a general name that everybody understands? Because Elianto is a brand. We'll call it a cooking oil container, right? Or if you had a container that holds water, what would you call it? A water container, right? If I'm not wrong. So if you're speaking about a variable, I want you to picture it that way: a container holding something. So let's say our cooking oil container. Let's call it C, and it holds 5 liters of cooking oil. So we call it, or let me just call it C. So that is the name of our container. We name our container, and then we store our oil in it. And the oil that we're storing in it is 5 liters of oil. So what I'm doing here, C equals to 5 means, equal sign means assignment. And assignment here, when you're talking about Python or programming, means you are storing the value 5. And 5 is data. You're storing 5 in a container called C. So meaning, if I wanted to get the contents of that container and see what is inside, in programming language, you use a print statement, or you feed it to another variable, or you feed it to another function that requires it. Now, if I go ahead and run this code, I'm going to get 5. I'm not getting C. Why? Because C is the container that holds my 5, the data. But what type of data is 5? Somebody? What type of data is 5?
Number.
It's a number. So when you're dealing with programming languages, you're going to have data types. And these data types are in form of numbers, which are integers. Like 5 is an integer, right? 5 is an integer. So we have integer. Floating point numbers are probably decimal numbers with a lot of decimal points. So those are floating point numbers. So if you have integers, we have like 5 whole numbers. Let me just say whole numbers. 5, 6, sorry, 7, blah, blah, blah. String is what I just did here. These are any textual data is string, and they normally appear in double quotes or single quotes in Python. So if I do something like hello, that is a string. And then we have booleans. Boolean is now when you have to say yes or no. So back to Elizabeth. If you had to say no at a particular point in your life, then you are dealing with Boolean in real life and you didn't even know. Kuna mali, I know before, you had to say yes or no, or choose between true or false. So whatever you chose, just know that in real life, that maps to Boolean data type in programming languages or computer languages. So you can say true or false. And then we have lists, what most people know as arrays in other languages. But you can have a list of things. Like, for example, you can have a list of numbers like 1, 2, 3. And then if I wanted to define location on a map, I would use a tuple because I could say longitude at maybe 14 and latitude at 2.6. So I'm already depicting maybe a point on a map. So tuples will allow you to define something like that. Or where you have predefined options. And then we have sets. Now, what do you know about a set? Something that is common about a set. I'm even talking about the mathematical set that we guys used some time back. There's something unique about that set. That is why it is called a set in the first place. What is unique about a set, be it a mathematical set?
It's unique, like unique, like where, like you can't set like us, like some unique set of values.
Exactly. Kama ulikuwa na ile ruler moja, ilikuwa inaitwa 15 cm ruler. Ni moja, si ndio? Si mbili. Like one unique thing. It's a set of unique things that perform a particular task, maybe geometry. So if there is something you could not find within a set is duplication. Kila kitu that is there performs a unique value and it's only one there. So when you talk about sets, if you want to clean, now if you're doing big data or you're doing data science, you'll be using sets a lot because you need to clean data. So you're passing a stream of strings within a set and you want no repetition. So you use sets, you pass it through a set so that it cleans out the duplicates. So we are still talking about data types. And then we have dictionaries. These are now complex data types with key value pairs. So I have A for apple, situendele. B for? Okay, hamtaki kurudi kindergarten. Okay, L for? Sawa. Hamtaki kurudi kindergarten. So we've talked about data types. We've talked about data types, and those are the data types that we have. Now that we know the different data types, and we know what a variable is, the variable we said it's just a container that holds the data, with whichever the type. I could decide that I have 5.5 liter of oil, and because I've reintroduced a decimal point, it becomes a float, not integer or whole number, as we know it. So si bado tunapika kuku. Tuko at this point tuko na tomatoes ngapi? We have let's say we have 3 tomatoes. Just Elizabeth, you should be guiding us. How many tomatoes do we need?
3 big ones.
So you like big things. So onions.
Two big ones.
Oh my God. All your things are big. All right. And then we have spices. Wacha tuwache na spices kwanza. And then tuko na kuku. Let's call it K, which is 1. And let's come on kula kuku ka 5 hapa. Let's go with 1. So we have this. We want to cook a meal. So we have kuku. We have cooking oil. We have tomatoes. We have onions. And probably we've defined the amounts that we want. Now, what is the next step, Elizabeth, once you have all this?
You boil the kuku. You pre-boil.
You boil. So let's say our kuku is boiled and ready. So what next?
Kitunguu, mafuta, then nyanya, then kuku.
Exactly. So we're coming to operators. Sawa. Now I have my ingredients, or let me say I have my variables and data types. Then I come to operators. How are these things mixing to make sense? That is where we come to operators. And we have, naweza ongeza, you can say add maybe a liter of oil, right? So you can add, you can subtract. Kama chumvi ni mingi, umeweka mingi, unasema wacha nitoe kijiko moja, hii ni mingi. You're subtracting. But you can also multiply, si ndio? Uweke pilipili hapa kwa spices. You can also divide, or you can also find the remainder. So what I'm saying is, if you want to make your data make sense, then you need to perform operations on your data. You can't just have data and sit with it. Hakuna haja nikae na kuku moja kwa fridge na nikae na cooking oil for the whole month na situmii. Hakuna haja nikae na tomatoes na situmii ama onions. So I'll have to perform some operations at some point. So that brings us to what? Operators. And we have different types of operators. We have arithmetic operators. We have logical operators. And then we have assignment operators. And then we have, there's so many, can't cover all of them. So let's say what applies to our project today, or cooking our meal today. Let's say we have kuku and tunataka kutengeneza spice kwanza. So kuku itakuja baadaye. So let's start with oil. So let's say soup, right? Tunatengeneza soup. Is that the spelling? I don't know. So our soup equals to oil. So we say oil plus. So let's say in this let's say we just pick maybe 1 liter, right? 1 liter. So C. So if I say C, that means whatever is stored in C is what I'm calling. And then nataka kuongeza mafuta, naongeza na nini? Tomato. And then nataka kuongeza what next? Onions. So at that point, I have my soup. When I have my soup, now I want my kuku meal. I'm going to put my kuku inside the soup. So I have the soup plus the kuku, which is K. And I can print out the meal. So print out total items. So let's say for our kuku meal, the total items that we'll need to buy, 1 kuku, we'll buy that liter of oil and plus. So all those things that we want to buy to make our kuku, we want to print that out. So if I run this, sorry about that, having syntax, let me just say. So let me comment this out first, and then prepare our meal. Okay. Try to use a terminal. So let's say we want to run this. So if you want to run a Python code, you're going to start with the keyword Python to call the interpreter, and then the name of the file, which is hello.py, like that. So when we run that, we're going to have total items to buy to prepare our cuckoo meal is going to be 7. So what we've done here, we've actually performed an operation on our variables and data types that we defined. So hapa kwa oil si tungeongeza tu ikuwe 1.5 surely, ndio tukuwe na different types of data. So that's what we have. If you are able to see my terminal, you can see that total items to buy is 7.5 items. Now let's move to the next step. What is the next step after preparing your cuckoo meal? So this is where you move to control flow. Now you have your meal, but you need to unafika point ya sasa kupiga hesabu, because how many people do you have to serve with this meal? So you can say you say that you need to make a decision. So if the cuckoo meal is let's say is greater than 5, then you can say you have a lot of items to buy for the cuckoo choma, or otherwise you could print something else. So what I'm saying is, from if you have your data, and you can probably manipulate your data using different types of operations that I've mentioned here. So we have arithmetic. We can either add, minus, subtract, or find the remainder. That is the and then you can also do logical operations. On a day-to-day basis, you normally make decisions. So that is where logical operations come in. If it is a cuckoo meal, let me say you have maybe you have a calendar for your meals. Maybe you say Monday you're cooking githeri, Wednesday you're cooking ugali, Friday unakula omena, something like that. So that is where logical operations come in. You need to make decisions. So you need to say, if the day is Monday, then we are going to buy maybe these items for preparing cuckoo. Or you could say, if the cooking oil is greater than 5 liters, then we can actually cook mandazi, right? Or if it is greater than or equal to 2 liters. So you see, we have different types of operators here. We have double equal sign means assignment, comparing if one value is equal to the other. And then we have not equal to, the exclamation and the equal mark. And then we have not and all that. And then we have assignment operators. There's so much to learn about Python, but I'm looking at time here. It's not giving. So I don't know. I'd like to stop there and take a few questions. So we might need another session to look into functions. Yeah, to look into functions and a bit of control flow. But I'd like to stop there and maybe take a few questions. So as we wait for the questions, let's look at the different career paths in Python. So if you plan to climb the ladder, or your plan is to venture into Python and maybe explore or a career in Python, so these are the different careers that you could explore. Like, you could become a data scientist, and the salary rate is in terms of dollars, so from 95K to 150K. And then we have backend developer, or probably just a full stack developer, because if you're doing Django, you can do front end and back end at the same time. Build APIs, manage databases, scale applications. So it is from 80K to 130K on average. And then we have machine learning or AI engineer. Salary ranges is from 110. This is the most paid, I think, 110 to 180K. And if you look at the current trends, AI is trending, right? People are building AI agents, blah, 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 applications, automating things. So Python is the best language to learn if you want to venture into machine learning or AI engineering. Then we have DevOps. 90K to 145K, also paid very well. So if you're interested in automating pipelines and workflows for services to deploy into the cloud, then you're looking at that average salary. Yeah, and the growth of Python is good compared, and it's expected to improve significantly towards 2030. So the future of Python, like we said, is this a language that is worth learning. And in 20 years from now, if you compare notes, you won't wait for me at that, we call it what? If whatever we've discussed today or whatever I've said today has maybe convinced you to venture into Python, I'm very sure I'll be smiling to see in the next maybe 10 years, see you soaring high and maybe exploring careers in these famous IT organizations. I'm very sure. So this is not something that if I tell you do Python today, then in the next 10 years, you're going to regret that, the language was dropped or something. No, it has a future and it is growing and it is becoming better. They're improving even the performance. So if you look at the future of Python, it is geared towards supporting AI, and the AI is the next big thing that this generation is going to witness. So you're probably in the right place. Okay, so after all this, are you really ready to start your journey in Python? I mean, it's amazing, right? Ona tu code nilikuwa nimeandika. It's simple, it's readable, and we were cooking kuku choma. Ni venye hatujamaliza. Niliwaambia kuku choma tutamaliza kupika saa hii. Mlichagua the wrong meal. Tungemaliza kupika. But what do you say? After all this, are you ready to start a journey? Your journey in Python, and of course at CodeVertex. And like I said, I promised to show you the courses that we offer that are probably going to guide you through. So we have the Code Starter course that is beginner friendly, and we have software engineering level 1 that is intermediate. If you know a bit of Python and now you want to venture into OOP, Git or version control, and you want to learn basic building basic applications, and then you are at the expert level, then you can do the software engineering mastery course. So we have all those courses with valid certifications that you can present anywhere. And the good thing with our courses is that we also offer free internship at the end of each course. So the best way to make sure you get hands-on skills is probably enroll in a course. If you're a beginner, start from somewhere and progress slowly. After that, after each course, we might offer you an internship somewhere, and Bill will talk about that. We have different partners right now who are just waiting for us to give them our graduates as interns in their organization. So Bill will talk about that. Maybe I can invite Bill to talk about our courses and more about our internship opportunities. Bill, as we wait for the questions, if you have a question in the messages section, be on view.
Okay, thank you, Titus, for that good session. So maybe we can give him a clap. Yeah, so maybe like I'm going to take some few time to share with you like what we do, some of our courses. Yeah, so we have a code starter course. So I'm going to share my screen, then able to see the course. So basically, like from this course, like we are going to like expose you more to how to learn how to code, learning how to learn more about HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and Tailwind. Then we'll do JS. Then we're going to do some framework in this called Vue. Then we'll do Django, like the backend language. Then from there, like once you are done with that, we have partnered with some firm called The One. The One like is some tech firm based in like based in US, but not like they have some branch here in Nairobi. So meaning like once you are done with any like of a courses, you are able to go there and begin like a journey in tech. So maybe like I'll just share my screen in a few, then we can share with you what we have. Yeah, then from there we can maybe take some few questions, then it'd be good to go. Basically, I'm going to share some tab. Just a minute. Okay. Yes, so like we have this called like called a course on code starter. So basically like here you're going to learn how to build your portfolio. You're going to earn an an HDL cert which is global. Then once you are done with this, you get some free 3 months like internship with the one. So basically, we are going to do, we are going to learn more about the basics of HTML, CSS, and JS and Python. Then we learn how to build some real applications. Then we learn more about version control using Git. Then you learn more about like prompt engineering. Like now we have the issue like a web coding. So maybe like we're going to add to that. Then once you are done, like you'll be able to be able to like finish like with 3 projects done. Then like you'll be able to get some ICDL cert which is global. Then the one, so like I'm just going to share with you the one. So like once you're done with that, we are going to do like a like internship with this farm, the one Minnesota. Let me see if I'm able to find the website in a minute. The one, I think it should be the one or something. So basically, like our tune is some tech firm, like where they build software. So some means like once you are good at what you do, they may take you for some either some mid-level position or some mid-level position. Like that. Then we also have some Python course. We also have some Python course, which is going for only 4 weeks, where like we both learn more about the Python fundamentals. Then we learn more about data structures and the algos. Then we learn more about the functions and the OP. Then we'll touch more about APIs and something to do with automation. Then we'll be able to do some custom project, and you'll be able to earn your Python certificate. So this course goes for only 5,000 shillings. I think this is more like of a pocket change to many of us. Then the course will go for 20, for like 20 days. Then it will fully be online. So we also have like other courses like AI, marketing, support, and many more. But now for the purposes like of this event, we were to talk more about coding using Python. Yeah, so I think Titus, like is there like anything that I should share again? Maybe we can take some few questions from the audience. Then if you want to maybe like enroll to any of our courses, Charlie can share with us the link. So maybe a Swali from the audience concerning maybe a Python or any of our courses. Okay, I see we have Eliza. So maybe Shirley, you can share with Eliza the link to that. Then we are going to share the recording once the event is over. So maybe before we finish, can maybe ask maybe some few people what was their key takeaway from the event. What has been your key takeaway from the event? So maybe I'll ask William. William, who is my, you can say is my namesake. So William, what have you been able to take away from the event?
I would say the advantages of Python and how it compares to the other programming languages. So those are my key takeaways.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can hear from Sigudi. Hi, Sigudi. What has been your key takeaway before we end? Oh, it's 9:42. I think we can end by 9:45. We can hear from one more person. Then we finish. Effie, maybe you can share with us your key takeaway.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. My key takeaways. Okay. Actually, I am new to this. This was very, very new to me. So I have a lot of takeaways and I have a lot of questions, but I think I will reach out to CodeVertex directly, or maybe I can join one of the courses, particularly the Code Starter course. So I have a lot of things to learn. I have a lot of things to look into, and my interest has grown. My interest in coding and Python and everything has grown. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can hear from one more gentleman. Then we finish. George Odhiambo. Hi. Okay, so seems that wote tumechoka. So guys, thank you all for joining in. We always have such events on Thursdays from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So you can go to LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Discord, Threads, and follow our pages at CodeVertex IT Solutions. So here we do such events. I think before the year ends, we're planning to do one big hackathon. So you can tune in for more of these events. Otherwise, to our speaker, thank you for sharing that good session. I think I also learned a lot. So maybe we need to do more series on the same, so that we may be able to bridge the gap on the same topic. So there being no other A or B, I beg to end the meeting as at now. Thank you all for joining in. See you next Thursday, where we are going to talk more about cloud computing. Yeah, using either AWS, Oracle, or Azure. So thank you. See you all next week on Thursday. Bye bye. Ciao.